I've always been the good daughter, the one who helps out, who pays, who never complains. At 32, I'm Sheila Harmon, marketing specialist at a mid-sized company in Chicago. I live alone in a modest rented apartment, drive a reliable but aging Honda, and have spent the last decade funding my family's vacations. It all started when my parents, Linda and Robert, took early retirement at 58. They had some savings but claimed they couldn't afford luxuries like travel. My sister Kate is 6 years older than me, married to Dave, with 2 kids, Tommy, 12, and Emma, 10. They run a small printing business that Kate describes as successful but with cash flow issues whenever she needs to borrow money. The first time it happened, Mom called and said, "Sheila, honey, we heard you're going to Florida next month. Dad and I would love to join. We can't afford it on our pension, though." Her voice trailed off expectantly. I didn't even hesitate before offering to pay. I thought it would be a one-time thing. But it wasn't. Every vacation after that, my parents expected me to foot the bill. Then Kate started joining with her family. The kids would love to see the ocean, or Dave really needs a break from work stress. Somehow, I always ended up paying for extra rooms, meals, and activities. Instead of relaxing, I spent my vacations watching Tommy and Emma while Kate and Dave went on date nights, or taking my parents to doctors they'd scheduled since we're in the area anyway. My sister always promised to pay me back but never did. "Business is tight right now," was her perpetual excuse. Last year, after returning from a nightmare trip to Branson where I spent most of my time in hotel rooms watching the Weather Channel with my dad or helping my mom find souvenir shops, I decided enough was enough. I needed a real vacation. By myself. My friend Jenna works as a manager at Sunset Travel Agency. When I walked into her office, she could tell something was wrong. "You look exhausted," she said, gesturing for me to sit. "I am. I need a vacation from my vacations," I replied, slumping into the chair. "Something just for me, 2 weeks, somewhere peaceful, where I can be alone." She asked about the budget and typed into her computer, then smiled. "Hawaii. Isn't that super touristy?" "Not everywhere," Jenna said, turning her monitor so I could see. "This small hotel on the Big Island is off the beaten path. Only 20 rooms, private beach access, hiking trails nearby. It's perfect for someone who wants solitude." The photo showed a simple but beautiful white building surrounded by lush greenery, with the ocean visible in the distance. My heart raced with excitement. "I'll take it," I said without hesitation. That evening, I booked my flight and reserved a room for 2 weeks starting May 15th. For the first time in years, I felt genuine excitement about a trip. Then came the dilemma, tell my family or not? Part of me wanted to just disappear for 2 weeks without a word. But that seemed childish. They'd understand, right? Adults take solo vacations all the time. The opportunity came the following Saturday at our traditional family dinner at my parents' house. Kate, Dave, and the kids were already there when I arrived. Mom's famous pot roast filled the house with a familiar aroma that usually made me feel at home. That night, it felt strangely suffocating. We sat down to eat, and Mom launched into complaints about the neighbor's new fence. Dad talked about his golf game. Kate mentioned something about Tommy's science project. Normal family dinner conversation. During a lull, I took a deep breath and announced, "I booked a trip to Hawaii for my vacation next month." 5 pairs of eyes turned to me. "Hawaii?" Mom repeated, "that sounds wonderful. When are we going?" I stared at my plate, gathering courage. "Actually, I'm going alone. It's a small hotel in a secluded area, really peaceful and quiet." Silence fell across the table, not the comfortable kind. "Alone?" Dad's fork clattered against his plate. "What do you mean, alone?" "I mean, just me. I need some time to myself." Mom's face hardened. "By what right do you think you can go off alone, without your parents or your sister's family?" The question stunned me. By what right? "Mom, I'm 32 years old, I can decide where I go and with whom." "Selfish," Mom hissed, "after everything we've done for you." Dad leaned forward. We haven't gone anywhere for a year, Sheila. You know we can't afford it, you have to take us. Have to? My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. Kate jumped in, it's perfect timing. Dave and I can take 2 weeks off, the kids would love Hawaii. Were they serious? They hadn't heard a word I'd said. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. I've already decided, I'm going alone because that's what I want and need. Mom's hand flew to her chest. My heart, you're killing your mother with this selfishness. She started wailing, what kind of terrible daughter abandons her parents? So greedy you won't even pay for our vacation. Dad pointed his finger at me, you're pulling away from this family. After everything we've sacrificed for you. Kate nodded vigorously, the kids will be devastated. They were counting on a summer trip. My head started pounding, the room spun slightly, I grabbed my purse and headed for the door. I'm leaving, I said quietly. That's right, run away from your responsibilities, Mom shouted after me. I drove home in tears, my phone already buzzing with messages. They continued all night. I turned off my phone and curled up in bed, exhausted and confused. Was I really being selfish? All I wanted was 2 weeks to myself after years of funding family vacations. The week after the disastrous dinner was hell. I went to work, came home, and tried to ignore the constant barrage of texts and calls. My phone would light up every few minutes with a new guilt trip from my family. I stopped answering after the first day, which only made things worse. By Wednesday, my sister had enlisted our cousins and even our Aunt Carol to reach out to me. Your parents are devastated, my aunt wrote. Family vacations are your tradition, why change it now? I couldn't believe how quickly they'd twisted the narrative. According to them, I wasn't an adult making a reasonable choice to take a solo vacation, I was a selfish monster abandoning my family. The following Saturday, I decided to skip the weekly dinner. I needed space to clear my head. I ordered takeout, poured a glass of wine, and was just settling in to watch a movie when my doorbell rang. Not once, but repeatedly, like someone was leaning on it. Through the peephole, I saw my parents and Kate standing in the hallway. Dad was red-faced, Mom looked like she'd been crying, and Kate had her arms crossed over her chest. For a moment, I considered pretending I wasn't home. But they'd seen my car in the parking lot. Taking a deep breath, I opened the door. So you were hiding from us, Mom said, pushing past me into the apartment. Dad and Kate followed. I'm not hiding, I just needed some time alone. Kate scoffed, you sure seem to need a lot of alone time lately. They arranged themselves in my living room, Mom and Dad on the couch, Kate pacing by the window. I remained standing, arms crossed. Sheila, Mom began, her voice trembling, you've inflicted severe psychological trauma on all of us with your selfishness. The least you can do is pay for us to go where you're going. It's only fair after what you've put us through. Kate stepped forward, actually, you can only make amends if you pay for all of us, Mom, Dad, Dave, the kids, and me. First-class tickets, obviously, and the best rooms at the hotel. My jaw dropped. Are you serious right now? Of course we're serious, Kate said, it's the least you can do. And that's when it hit me, like a lightning bolt of clarity cutting through years of fog. My family wasn't concerned about spending time with me. They weren't hurt by my desire for solitude. They simply viewed me as their personal ATM, a reliable source of free vacations and financial support. All those years I'd been feeling guilty for wanting space, for hesitating before handing over my credit card, for wishing I could just read a book on the beach instead of watching my niece and nephew. And all along, they'd been using me. You know what, you're right, I said slowly. Their expressions changed instantly. Mom's tears dried up, Dad's scowl softened, Kate's tight-lipped anger morphed into a smug smile. I knew you'd come around, Mom said, patting my hand, you've always been such a good daughter, deep down. Kate pulled out her phone, let me check my calendar to make sure those dates still work for us. And Sheila, book first class only, okay? Dave's back has been acting up, and he needs the legroom. They continued making demands as if I hadn't just been manipulated and emotionally blackmailed. As if their behavior was completely normal. "I'll arrange an unforgettable trip for the family," I said, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside me. After they left, I sat in silence for a long time. I should have felt guilty about what I was planning. Instead, I felt lighter than I had in years. The next morning, I called a real estate agent and found a new apartment across town. I paid the deposit that afternoon. Over the next few days, I quietly moved my essential belongings to the new place. I arranged for mail forwarding and updated my address at work and with my bank. Meanwhile, my parents and Kate continued their preparations, completely unaware. Mom sent me photos of new swimsuits they'd bought. "Do you think this will look good on the beach in Hawaii?" Kate texted pictures of the kids' suitcases. "They're so excited." I responded with thumbs-up emojis and heart reactions, playing along with the charade. Each message reinforced that I was making the right decision. 2 days before the scheduled flight, Kate called me. "Just checking that everything's good with the tickets and hotel," she said, not bothering with a greeting. "Everything's fine," I replied. "We'll all meet at the airport on Friday, Terminal B, 9 a.m. "Good." There was a pause, and then she added, "You know, Sheila, I'm glad you finally understand what family means. How important it is to help each other out." I bit my tongue to keep from saying something I'd regret. "And just so you know," Kate continued, "I'm already thinking about our Christmas trip. Dave and I were looking at ski resorts in Colorado. You'll cover that one too, of course." My hand tightened around the phone. "We'll talk about that later," I managed to say. "Great, see you Friday." She hung up before I could respond. I shook my head in disbelief. They still didn't get it. They still thought they could dictate my life, my finances, my vacations. On Friday morning, I woke up at 5 a.m. I'd already arranged for a taxi to pick me up at 6, 3 hours before I'd told my family to meet me at the airport. I took one last look around my old apartment, now nearly empty except for the furniture that came with it. As the taxi pulled away, I felt a momentary pang of doubt. Was I doing the right thing? Would this burn bridges forever? Then I remembered Kate's casual assumption that I'd fund yet another vacation. Mom's fake tears, Dad's demands, the years of financial and emotional manipulation. Yes, I was doing the right thing. For once, I was choosing myself. At the airport, I checked in quickly and headed to my gate. No one questioned me or stopped me. No one called my name. I boarded the plane and settled into my window seat, feeling both nervous and exhilarated. As the plane took off, I imagined my family arriving at the airport in a few hours. They'd wait, growing increasingly impatient. They'd call my phone, which was now set to Do Not Disturb mode. Eventually, they'd try to check in, only to discover there were no tickets in their names. The thought made me smile as the plane climbed through the clouds. When we landed in Kona, I took a deep breath of the fragrant tropical air. Paradise at last. The hotel had arranged a shuttle, and 40 minutes later, I arrived at the secluded property Jenna had recommended. It was even more beautiful than the photos, a small, elegant building nestled between lush jungle and a private beach cove. My room was simple but perfect, clean white linens, bamboo furniture, a private lanai overlooking the ocean. I unpacked quickly, changed into a sundress, and walked down to the beach. The sand was warm between my toes, and the waves created a soothing rhythm as they washed ashore. I sat there until sunset, watching the sky transform into brilliant shades of orange and pink. No one demanded my attention, no one asked me to take a photo of them or complained that it was too hot or too windy. It was just me and the ocean and the sky. Only when darkness fell did I remember to turn on my phone. It immediately exploded with notifications, 37 missed calls and over 60 text messages, all from my family. I scrolled through them, watching the progression from confusion to panic to rage. "Mom, 8:45 a.m. We're at Terminal B, where are you?" "Dad, 9:12 a.m. The check-in desk says there are no tickets in our names, call us immediately." Kate, 9:30 a.m. This isn't funny, Sheila, the kids are getting restless. Mom, 10:15 a.m. I can't believe you would do this to your own family, after everything we've done for you. The messages grew increasingly hostile as they realized what had happened. My father called me ungrateful. My mother said I was dead to her. Kate's messages were the worst, filled with curses and vicious wishes that I would slip off a cliff or drown in the ocean. I should have felt guilty. Instead, I felt relieved. They had shown their true colors, confirming what I'd finally realized: they didn't love me, they loved what I could provide for them. I turned off my phone again and went to the hotel restaurant for dinner. The fresh-caught fish was delicious, and I savored every bite while watching the moonlight dance on the waves. This was what a vacation should feel like. The next 2 weeks were everything I'd hoped for. I swam in the crystal-clear water, hiked to a hidden waterfall, took a sunrise yoga class on the beach, and spent hours reading under a palm tree. I made friends with a retired couple from Oregon and a solo traveler from Australia. We had dinner together several times, sharing stories and laughs without any underlying tension or manipulation. On my last day, I sat on the beach at sunrise, feeling more at peace than I had in years. I would go back to my new apartment, to my job, to my life, but I would never go back to being the family ATM. The flight home felt different than the flight out. Instead of excitement, I felt resolve. I knew there would be consequences to face, but I was ready. When I landed, I took a taxi directly to my new apartment. It was still mostly empty, with just the essentials I'd moved before leaving. I spent the evening organizing what I had brought and making a list of things I needed to buy. I had just fallen asleep when my phone rang. It was the landlord of my old apartment. "Miss Harmon, I'm sorry to bother you so late, but there's been an incident at your old unit. Someone has sprayed foam all over your door. I've called the police." I knew immediately who was responsible. "Check the security footage. I think you'll find it was either my sister Kate or her husband Dave. They're both in their early 40s, she has shoulder-length brown hair, he's balding with glasses. The police are reviewing the footage now. Should I tell them how to reach you?" I gave him my new address, then hung up feeling shaken. They had crossed a line I hadn't anticipated. From emotional manipulation to property damage, what would be next? The next morning, I took decisive action. I changed my phone number, deleted my rarely used social media accounts, and went to my office to speak with security. "I'm having some family issues," I explained to the head of security. "If anyone named Linda or Robert Harmon, or Kate and Dave Wilson try to see me, please don't let them in." For 2 weeks, there was silence. No contact from my family, no further incidents. I began to settle into my new life, enjoying the peace and freedom. I furnished my apartment, joined a yoga studio, and even went on a date with a man I met at a coffee shop. Then came the email from my cousin Megan. "Sheila, I know about what happened with the Hawaii trip. Aunt Linda has been telling everyone how you framed them. I thought you should know that Kate and Dave were arrested yesterday. The security footage from your old apartment showed them spraying foam all over your door. They've been fined for vandalism and ordered to pay for the damages. Also, your parents are telling everyone they've disowned you. I'm sorry things have gotten so ugly. Let me know if you need anything. Love, Megan." I stared at the screen for a long time, trying to identify what I felt. Sadness, anger, guilt? Nothing, I felt nothing. It was as if a wound that had been festering for years had finally been cleaned out. It hurt, but it was a necessary pain, the kind that leads to healing. My family hadn't seen me as a person with needs and desires of my own for a long time. To them, I was a resource to be used, an ATM to fund their wants, a babysitter to mind their children. And now that I'd stopped fulfilling that role, they had no use for me. I made myself a cup of tea and sat on my still new couch, reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. 3 months ago, I couldn't have imagined cutting ties with my entire immediate family. I'd been trapped in a cycle of guilt and obligation for so long that I couldn't see how unhealthy it had become. The next day at work, my boss noticed the change in me. "You seem different since your vacation, Sheila," she said during our weekly check-in, "more focused, more confident." "I am," I replied. "I made some difficult but necessary changes in my personal life." She nodded. "It shows." In fact, I've been meaning to talk to you about the senior marketing position that's opening up next month. I think you should apply. A promotion? 6 months ago, I would have hesitated, worried about having less time to deal with family demands. Now, I smiled, I'd love to. That evening, I received another email from Megan asking if I wanted to get coffee over the weekend. It was nice to know that not all family connections were severed. Megan had always been kind and reasonable, never asking me for money or making demands. We met at a cafe near my new apartment on Saturday morning. "You look good," she said, studying my face, happier. "I am," I admitted. "How bad is it?" "The family gossip about me?" "Pretty bad," Megan admitted. "Aunt Linda is telling everyone you promised them a trip and then abandoned them at the airport as some kind of cruel joke. Uncle Robert is focusing on all the ways they supported you growing up, conveniently forgetting the years you've been supporting them. And Kate," she trailed off. "Kate is being Kate," I finished for her. "Yeah, she and Dave are furious about the fines they had to pay. They're claiming you set them up somehow." I shook my head in disbelief. "They vandalized my door and got caught on camera." "How exactly did I set that up?" "I didn't say it made sense," Megan replied with a small smile. "You know they've never taken responsibility for anything." We chatted for another hour, catching up on each other's lives. Before we left, Megan hesitated. "They're saying they've disowned you, but I think they expect you to come crawling back eventually. When you need family or get lonely, they think you'll apologize." I considered this, and if I don't? Then I guess we'll all find out if they meant it about disowning you. She squeezed my hand. "For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. It wasn't healthy, the way they treated you." The following weeks fell into a new rhythm. I threw myself into work, prepared for the promotion interview, and slowly built a life that wasn't centered around my family's demands. My bank account grew without the constant drain of funding family trips and emergencies. My weekends became my own, filled with activities I enjoyed rather than obligatory family dinners. I got the promotion at work. I went on a date with a kind, funny architect named Michael. I bought new furniture for my apartment and painted the walls a soft blue that I'd always loved but my mother would have hated. 6 months after Hawaii, Megan invited me to her son's birthday party. I hesitated, knowing other family members would be there. "Kate and your parents won't be coming," she assured me. "But some of the cousins will. They've heard both sides by now and can make up their own minds." The party was awkward at first. Cousin Steve avoided eye contact, and his wife whispered something to her friend while looking in my direction. But Aunt Carol gave me a warm hug, and Uncle Phil acted as if nothing had changed. By the end of the evening, the tension had mostly dissolved, replaced by the normal dynamics of an extended family gathering. As I was leaving, Aunt Carol pulled me aside. "I should have said something years ago," she said, her voice low. "The way they treated you wasn't right, taking advantage of your kindness." "Why didn't you?" I couldn't help asking. She sighed. "Family politics, not wanting to create drama, the usual excuses." "I'm sorry, Sheila." I nodded, accepting her apology without fully absolving her. "Have you heard from them lately?" "Your parents are struggling a bit financially without your help, though they'd never admit it. Kate and Dave's business is having problems again. They tried asking your cousin Steve for a loan last month." I felt a momentary flicker of concern before reminding myself that these were adults who had made their own choices. Their financial problems weren't my responsibility. That night, I thought about how much had changed in less than a year. I'd gone from being a walking ATM for my family to living life on my own terms. It hadn't been an easy transition. There were still moments of grief for the relationships I'd lost, for the family I wished I had rather than the one I'd been given. But there was also peace. No more anxiety about checking my bank balance after a family visit. No more dreading vacations that should have been enjoyable. No more walking on eggshells to avoid triggering demands and manipulation. I received a Christmas card from Megan the following week, with a note saying she hoped I'd join them for their annual New Year's Eve party. Michael asked if I wanted to spend Christmas Day with his family. My book club planned a gift exchange for our December meeting. Life was continuing, evolving into something new, something healthier. As I placed Megan's card on my mantle, I realized I hadn't thought about my parents or Kate in days. The sharp pain of their betrayal had dulled to an occasional ache. I no longer checked my email with dread, fearing messages from them. I no longer rehearsed explanations or defenses in my mind. I was free, not just from their financial demands, but from the emotional weight I'd carried for so long. Standing in my peaceful apartment, surrounded by choices I'd made for myself, I finally understood, family isn't about blood or obligation. It's about mutual respect, support, and love, all the things I'd never really had with my parents and sister.